Have you ever looked at a company and just wondered how do they do it? How are they always one step ahead? Well, it's rarely just luck. More often than not, it's their people strategy. We're talking about strategic human resource management, or SHRM. In this explainer, we're going to unpack the core theories that turned HR from a back-office administrative job into a strategic powerhouse. So here's the plan. We'll kick things off with a huge strategic shift that really changed the game for HR. Then we'll get right to the heart of it all, viewing people as human capital. From there, we'll look through 5 different lenses to understand people strategy, see how that strategy actually drives what employees do, and finally, we'll connect all the dots to see how it creates a real, tangible competitive edge.
All right, first up, let's talk about the incredible journey HR has been on. I mean, it's gone from basically being an administrative afterthought to a core strategic partner at the table.
So just take a look at this timeline. Back in the 80s and 90s, HR was basically personnel. They were buried in paperwork, right? A tactical function. But then things started to change. We began to see people as an actual resource. And today? Well, today we're in the era of strategic HRM, where the people strategy is completely intertwined with the business's main goals. It's a total transformation from being a cost center to a real value driver. So what in the world is SHRM, really? At its core, it's pretty simple. It's all about linking your people directly to your company's goals. The whole idea is to intentionally build the exact kind of workforce with the exact behaviors and skills that you need to win. This is where HR stops just being a support function and really becomes a key player in pushing the entire business forward. Now, this whole strategic shift we're talking about, it's really powered by one core philosophical change. It's about a total rethink of how we value our most important asset, our people. I mean, just look at the difference here. On one side, you have the old view. Employees are just a cost on the balance sheet, something you need to minimize. But then, on the other side, the SHRM view completely flips that on its head. People become strategic capital. They're the engine that actually drives performance and builds a competitive advantage that lasts. It's a massive, fundamental shift in thinking. And this quote just nails it. Think about it, right? A company buys a new piece of machinery, and what happens? It starts losing value the second it's on the floor. It depreciates. But people are different. Human capital is totally unique. If you invest in them, if you nurture them with great training and a strong culture, they actually appreciate in value. Their skills grow, their knowledge deepens, and that makes the whole organization stronger and more valuable over time.
Okay, so that's the what. But how do companies actually do this? Well, let's dive in and look at 5 key perspectives. Think of them as different lenses that strategists use to connect their people directly to performance.
And a super important point here. In the real world, companies don't just, pick one of these theories off a shelf and say, this is us. No way. They mix and match, they blend them. The whole point of understanding these frameworks is that they give us the tools to analyze and build much better, much more effective people strategies.
All right, first up is the universalistic approach. This is basically the one-size-fits-all theory. The core belief here is that there's a set of best HR practices, things like selective hiring, paying well, lots of training, that are just universally good for all organizations, no matter what. You can see why this is the foundation for a lot of industry benchmarks, right? But it's also criticized for kind of ignoring what makes each company unique. Okay, so on the flip side, you've got the contingency approach. This is the it depends school of thought. It completely rejects that one-size-fits-all idea and says, hold on, the best HR strategy is contingent on the situation. It has to be tailored to fit the company's specific business strategy and its environment. I mean, it just makes sense, right? A low-cost airline is going to need a totally different people strategy than a high-end luxury brand. Next, we have the resource-based view, or RBV. This one's all about looking inward. It argues that a company's real, sustainable competitive advantage comes from its people. Think about it. A competitor can buy the same technology, they can rent the same office space, but they absolutely cannot copy your unique team culture and skills. That's your fortress. It's valuable, it's rare, and it's super hard for anyone else to imitate. It's exactly why you can't just go out and clone a company like Pixar.
Then there's the configurational approach. The key word here is synergy. The big idea is that single HR practices aren't all that powerful on their own. The real magic happens when you create integrated bundles of policies that all work together. For instance, it's pointless to hire super creative people if your reward system only values following the rules, right? That's a broken system. This approach is about making sure the whole HR system is greater than the sum of its parts.
And last but not least, we have the high commitment and high involvement view.
This one is all about culture and psychology. Instead of a top-down, control-focused mindset, this approach is about building deep, psychological commitment. It's about treating employees like true partners, giving them a real voice in decisions, and fostering a sense of ownership that just naturally leads to better performance. Honestly, this is the philosophy behind the whole employee engagement movement we see today.
Okay, so we've got all these theories, which is great, but how do they actually, work? How do they translate into real results? Well, it all boils down to one thing: shaping what your employees actually do day in and day out.
And that brings us to the behavioral perspective. This is the absolute critical link between your strategy on paper and what actually happens on the ground. The idea is so powerful because it's so simple. First, you figure out the exact employee behaviors you need to achieve your business strategy. Then, you design your entire HR system, everything from hiring to compensation, to encourage and reward those specific behaviors.
Let's make this super concrete. Say your company's big strategy is all about innovation. Okay, what behaviors does that require? Well, you need high levels of creativity, a ton of collaboration, and a real willingness to take some risks. So your HR system can't just be set up to reward efficiency and hitting quotas. No, it has to be built to reward experimentation, to celebrate teamwork, and to make it safe for people to try things and sometimes fail. Your HR practices have to actively build that innovative culture.
All right, let's pull all these threads together. How do you take these different theories and actually turn them into a real, lasting competitive advantage out in the wild?
The secret ingredient, the key to all of this, is a concept called strategic fit. And really, all it means is making sure every single piece of your people's strategy puzzle fits together perfectly. It's kind of where that "it depends" contingency theory we talked about earlier really comes to life.
So strategic fit has 3 dimensions, and they're all critical. First, you've got vertical fit. That's asking, does our HR strategy actually support our main business strategy? Are they pulling in the same direction? Second is horizontal fit. This is about making sure your different HR practices, like hiring and rewards, are consistent and reinforcing each other. Remember that bundling idea? That's horizontal fit. And finally, there's external fit. Is your people's strategy in sync with what's happening out in the real world? With market changes, new technology, all of that. Here's a fantastic real-world example of that vertical fit. Hindustan Unilever decided its business strategy was to go all in on digital transformation. Well, that meant HR had to change big time. They couldn't just keep hiring the way they always had. So what did they do? They aligned their HR strategy to that business goal. Their talent acquisition team completely shifted its focus to hiring people with cutting-edge digital and AI skills. That right there is strategic alignment in action.
And at the end of the day, this is the goal. When you get that perfect alignment between your people, your strategy, and their behavior, that's when you create a truly powerful and sustainable competitive advantage. That's what lets a company not just compete, but actually outperform its rivals. But what happens when that alignment breaks down, when you lose that fit? Just look at the cautionary tale of Nokia. These guys were on top of the world, the undisputed kings of mobile phones. But they've failed to adapt their human capital and their strategy to the coming smartphone revolution. They lost that critical external fit with the market, and their massive competitive advantage just evaporated. It seemed to happen overnight. It just goes to show you how incredibly high the stakes are. So I want to leave you with a question to think about. When you look at your own organization, what lens does it use to view its people? Is it more of a one-size-fits-all approach? Is it a contingency view? Or maybe a resource-based one? And then, here's the really important part. Whatever that lens is it actually building a competitive advantage that's going to stand the test of time?